Hello everyone and welcome back to Story of the World Highlights. We are currently in chapter 4, which means we're looking into the things that were happening with the explorers in Canada. And so to start off, I want us to look at this map of the world. So something you need to know about that time period was people were going to the New World to try to find gold and wealth, just like Philip did for Spain. However, they also wanted to go through the New World and explore it because they were looking for a way to get to India and China faster. Now, the people in Europe were well aware of the people in this area in Asia, and they were aware of the unique spices and flavors and things that they could get there. And so to trade with China or India, they had two options. They could go around Africa and land, or they could go through the mountains and the desert to get there. Now, going by foot through the mountains and desert, that's really exhausting and dangerous in bad conditions. But when they went in a boat, they could stop and refuel at certain spots around the coast of Africa where they had set up ports. So most people did opt to go this way, but that journey could take up to a year or more. And so people in Europe were looking for ways to get to China and India faster. And at first, before they knew the New World existed, they figured if they went west instead of east, if they went west, they would wind up over here, just straight sailing. However, we know Christopher Columbus landed in here, and he thought he landed in India, but he did not. That is why he called the native peoples Indians. But after more and more people started to discover the New World, they thought there still must be a way through the New World to get to China that would be faster than going around Africa. And they called this mystery passage the Northwest Passage. And so many people were eager to find it for their country and make success in trading. Now, we learned a lot about the English around this region, setting up colonies. But we also had French people going just a little bit north of that area and setting up colonies and exploring themselves. In the beginning of our chapter, we met an explorer named Samuel de Champlain. And Samuel de Champlain, when he landed there, he thought it was the most beautiful place he had ever seen, a paradise, he had described it. Canada had so many natural resources and lush land. And they also had really good animals there too, that they could use to trade in Europe. The biggest one being beavers. Beavers are a big trading thing that happened between the Europeans and the native peoples in Canada. And those beavers were really popular because beaver fur was extra warm in winter months. And so that was a very popular thing to get and sell back in Europe. Now, the first time Champlain went over, they did not pick the greatest spot to settle. They chose an island which in the harsh Canadian winters could not withstand survival. So they made a second attempt, and they went further in to Canada's mainland, into an area that was known by the native peoples there as Quebec with a K, K-E-B-E-C. Now, Quebec in the native language meant the place where the river narrows, out. And that name the native peoples gave it, is still the name that we have today. We know this area now as Quebec with a Q-U instead of a K, but it is the same original name, meaning the place where the river narrows. Now, Champlain was just one of the explorers we met. We also met somebody named Henry Hudson, and Henry Hudson's a very interesting guy. He's a dreamer, and the reason he was unique and stands out in a lot of history is he is a British person from England, and he had this idea that instead of going west, like everyone was trying to do, what if we went over Russia? Now, if any of you are familiar with this area, you know that it's very icy cold. Lots of ice. It is not good for traveling, especially in the winter. But Henry Hudson was convinced, I think it'll be faster. I think we can do it. And so he tried once and nearly died from an iceberg crashing a ship. He tried twice, and it didn't go well. England stopped hiring him to be an explorer, and the Netherlands, a new country with William the Silent, said, okay, you can explore for us, but no going over Russia. That's stupid. You're going to go this way like everyone else. So Henry Hudson did, and he landed over here in about New York area. And that New York area, they ended up landing there and calling it New Amsterdam, part of this whole New France area of the world. And Henry Hudson was really good at making friends with the native peoples. He did a lot of exploring and mapping in this area. And he eventually he saw a path with a river that he thought would lead through America, the North American area. And he was convinced it would work. But it was also getting cold and icy in the waters. And Henry Hudson's crew had had enough of Henry Hudson trying to convince them to go through cold, icy waters. They said, no way. And in the middle of the night, they ended up kicking Henry Hudson and his family off the ship, leaving them in a little boat in what is now the Hudson River in New York. And they left him there, and no one ever heard from him again. Uh-oh. His crew, after they abandoned their leader, went back to Europe, but they had a really hard time finding their way back without the help of Henry Hudson. And so not a lot of them survived the journey back. So those are just two of the prominent, important explorers that were making their way through this area in New France and North America, modern-day Canada. So again, Champlain was a French explorer, and Henry Hudson was a British explorer that ended up sailing for the Netherlands. So a lot of them can still be remembered today. In New York, we do have the Hudson River that was named after Henry Hudson. So with that, we're going to continue into chapter 5. See you there.